about a heaven in Alberta, where they've got all hell for basements. Yeah, I lost my way, but I can't tell about a heaven in Alberta, where they've got all hell for basements.
Hi, everyone. Frankie here, New West Reset. Hello. How's it going, eh? Welcome back. And welcome back to another New West Reset Live, episode 60 here this evening. So thank you very much for shooting in, joining a fella here for another live one. Great to see all of you. Happy Friday to you. Hope everybody had a great week. And hope everybody had a great Easter weekend or Easter long weekend. Some folks got a 4-day weekend on the Easters. So that's pretty good. That's not bad. And thank you. A heartfelt thanks to everybody for their well wishes. I was feeling a little under the weather last week. Started at about Wednesday night, Thursday-ish morning last week. Felt like warmed over hell that had been like turned over. You know, you just wake up and you just feel like a dog's breakfast, right? Looking like death warmed over. Wasn't feeling all that great Friday. Felt a little better Saturday. Did a little bit of a scientific experiment. So I'm going to leave you on the edge of your seat. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too quick yet, but I've got the results of my little scientific experiment with, getting rid of the headache, fever, sinus congestion, whatnot. But that said, feeling right as rain here today. That guy's flying at about 90%. So that's not too bad. Not too bad at all. I hope all of you are doing the same or better. Doing 100%, 110% maybe. I don't know. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me here. It's Friday, April the 5th, April the 5th. Just a skosh past 5 p.m. local time, mountain time here in Calgary, Canada, up in Canada land, up in Canadadia. Right here in south central Alberta, Purdy, Alberta. And even though we got a fairly healthy layer of snow yesterday, actually starting Wednesday night and snowed all day yesterday. So even though we got about, 4, 5 inches of snow out there right now, it's still lovely out there. It looks nice. Not even that cold. It's technically we're above zero here, people. So no need to panic. It's fine. The deep freeze doesn't come back. It's technically we're plus 1 degree Celsius. So that's like 33, 32-ish Fahrenheit. I mean, not blisteringly balmy or anything, but hey, not too shabby. Not too shabby. So I'm glad that you could join me here this evening for New West Reset Live episode 60. A little bit of something different here, a little special one. I'm going to be showing you the old world in my record collection. Fella's going to take you through some of my albums, my vinyl records. And we're going to look at some of the album covers because obviously a lot of work goes into a vinyl record back in the day, right? Starting in about, I think it was 1958 was the first official long playing 33 and a third RPM full record album on vinyl. Prior to that, you'd have a 78 RPM shellac platter, much like this thing in the background, where it would spin at 78 RPMs and you'd only get one song per side, anywhere from about 3 minutes to 3 minutes 15 seconds worth of music, depending how good your engineer was while they were cutting the master. But these days you can get an hour or more on a single album, a half an hour or maybe a little bit more on each side. So you get, you can get 12 songs on a record. Anyway, a lot of work went into those albums back in the day, because even the precursor to the cassette or the CD, you had vinyl, right? Vinyl's about 100 years old. Vinyl records. Well, records in this format, right? Shellac platters first, now vinyl. Started in about 1924, 1925-ish, give or take. And then we got the cassette tapes and the CDs, but they're not that big, right? So when you break out an old school vinyl record, that's about, the cover is about a foot by foot, right? Roughly just shy of 12 inches by 12 inches. So it's a lot of nice empty space to put beautiful artwork on the front of your album cover. Not like today where you get a thumbnail for an MP3 file or a digital file or whatever. So you can download music or streaming. You stream an album or something and you get like a little photo this big of Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles or Willie Nelson, whoever you're streaming. I don't know. But back in the day, you had this big, beautiful space that you could put photos or artwork, whatever. And I can remember, since I was kind of buying my own records, by the time I was about, 11, 12, I was buying my own records with my own money. I can remember I'd put the record on, whatever it was, right, and sit down and listen to it and prop up the album cover and stare at it while listening to the music. So that got a fella to thinking here. So I went through my record collection. I pulled out a few. I mean, I didn't pull out everything. I can't be here for like 12 hours, but pulled out a few records that have got some beautiful imagery on the front covers or even on the back covers, or if it's a gatefold on the inside, you open the album up, right? And on the inside, old world buildings or stuff pertaining to some of the things that we like to talk about around here in the community. You know what I'm saying? But before I get ahead of myself here, let me just take a second to say hello to everybody in the box. Thank you, everybody, for shooting in and joining a feller here. Turtle! Hello, Turtle. Jabberoo Joe is in the box as well. Yeah, a guy's got to touch up his fingers before going live, right? And, I got to go for my once a week manicure and all that. Get out of here, you kook. You're crazy. Marit is here, hidden in plain sight. Hello, my friend. Terry Light in the box as well. Old World Mi'kmaq. Hello. Queenida. Howie's here. How weird. Our buddy Maggot is in the box as well. Good to see you. Hello, everybody. Take a second. Jump into the box. Say hello. Let me know where you're shooting in from. It's great to see all of you. Whew, thank goodness. We made it. It's another week. Another week done and dusted. It's Friday. Fantastic. My favorite day of the week. Whether I work the day after, like tomorrow or not, Friday's always my favorite day. It's a pleasure to join all of you. And I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate you, kicking off your weekend with yours truly here. It's nice. Of all the places to be, you're here. Appreciate it. And to those of you that are going to be shooting in and listening in or watching the stream after the fact, after the live goes up, hello and welcome. And thank you very much for all your support as well. Very, very much appreciated. So yes, it is Friday. Mega triumph in the box. Put some eyes and a mouth on the back of your hand so we know it's you. Yeah. Right. Just draw something, put a couple of eyes here or something, a protruding proboscis. You know, it's funny in the winter when it's cold out, right? And I'm going to be doing a boots on the ground video. Sometimes I wear my gloves. So I got another pair of gloves when it's not so cold that it's those fingerless gloves like Rocky wore in Rocky. He's not making fun of my gloves there. It's just, hey, it's, hey, Mick, don't be talking about my gloves there, you know. Terry is ready to hear some sirens. So you're going to be hearing them. Slippery, wet roads, temperature hovering around freezing, sun starting to set, tail end of rush hour. Oh, you're going to hear some sirens. Get the window open a little bit because, you know, it's like I said, technically it's above zero, still +1, still like 32.5 degrees Fahrenheit or something. Oh yeah, we've gotten snow twice already in April. I mean, you know, March, okay, sure. You figure, well, you know, it's still March. It's Canada after all, and I'm close to the Rockies, high elevation and whatnot. So all right. But you know, it's funny. Your mind plays tricks on you, right? You flip the calendar and it says April at the top of the calendar, and you're like, sweet, sweet. Snow's gonna melt. It's going to start getting warmer. Well, I mean, it is. Snow has been melting and it has been getting warmer. But if it's -3 and you're going to get some precipitation falling, it's going to be snow. You know, it is what it is. The Canadian cobra chickens have returned. The murder turkeys have migrated back up here. You know, the Canada geese, the Canada geese. I live right close to the river. A guy lives super real close to the river. The bicycle pathway and nice little wooded area and a couple of city parks. So there's geese all over the place. Basically, some mornings when I'm leaving for work, I walk out the front door to my place, turn and walk a few feet down the sidewalk, and they're sitting on the front lawn. The neighbor or something is a goose. Well, actually, a pair of geese, right? Male and female. And they get super aggressive if you get too close. And they're a big bird, man. They can weigh like 40, 45 pounds. They stand about 3.5, 4 feet tall at the top of their vicious head. They hiss at you and lunge at you and stuff. Anyway, sure sign of spring when the the cobra chickens return. But even they got bamboozled because boop, there we got snow again. So there it is. It is warm enough for that shirtless guy to be running past the weed shop. That's right. Yeah, just up the street. Oh, man. Henry's here. Henry Maldonado. Buongiorno. Buongiorno, Henry. Come stai? Tutto va bene? Yeah, goose will cut you as soon as look at you. I'm telling you, they are, but you give them their space and they're totally fine, right? They're just protecting their little territory they've carved up, right? The male female geese will build their nest, right? The female will do most of the building. The male will pitch in, but he mostly stands guard, right? Get too close and She lays her clutch of eggs, right? And then she got to incubate those babies. So they're going to protect the eggs, and then we got coyotes, all kinds of stuff around here. So I get it. Sometimes they'll build their nest on the rooftop of a small apartment building, like a 2, 3, 4-story condo complex or something. So that's smart because the predators can't really get up there, and it's flat on the top, right? They're on the top of a roof of a condo. They're like 60 feet up or something. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me here. Hope everybody's doing well. Let's see what's going on here for the show. We're past the 1,450 subscribers here on the channel. So thank you very, very much. Appreciate that. Got a whole bunch of new friends of the channel here, so welcome. Thanks. And well, there you go, Terry. Right on cue. Ask, and ye shall receive. Ambulance going by. There it is. There you go. Well, it wouldn't be a Frankie live show without the dang sirens. Anyway, what's coming up for the channel? Knucklehead Show, episode 11, with myself and Chris from Old World Exploration, coming up here in April. We're going to be looking at Nelson, British Columbia. That's going to be mid-April-ish. As mentioned, just past 1,450 subscribers. So thank you. We're planning a 1,500 subscriber meetup. Got a spot figured out for a mudflood walkabout. Going to Inglewood. It's like 6 or 7 city blocks and a few side streets of just a bunch of old world gloriousness, churches and old office buildings, red brick with sandstone, and old school, an old fire hall. That's fantastical. Fantastical even. That's how good it is. So shooting for 1,500, so hopefully early summer, June-ish. Sort of we can get that in conjunction with the anniversary of the channel, 1,500 subs. And my birthday is mid-June. That'd be great. Gonna do it anyways, even if we don't meet 1,500 subscribers. It's fine. It's just an excuse to get together, do a meetup, and do a mudflood walkabout, Edmonton. Guy's going to be heading up to the capital city, capital of Purdy, Alberta here in the summer. Probably later in the summer, like August or September. Do a couple of mudflood walkabout tours up there. Check out the Capitol building, the legislature building, right? It's kind of Canada's version of state capitol buildings. Every province has got one. Edmonton's got one here. It's amazing. Also looking at returning to Heritage Park this summer. Going to check out the Railroad Museum and maybe the Car Museum and a couple other things that a couple of fellas, myself and cousin Vinny, we had to skip over. We were running like fools and we had to skip over a couple of things because even though we got there as the gates opened and we shut the place down, we were there all day. We still had to skip a few things. So we'll be looking at doing that as well. And gonna do a historic walking tour with a local Freemason sometime here in the late spring, early summer. It's sometime in the next couple of months. So keep your peepers peeled for that. I work with a guy who's really high up in the local Freemasonry, not just in Calgary, but in Alberta. He's a great guy, and I kind of bust his balls a bit about being a Mason and stuff, but he's quite impressed with my knowledge of the old school, old world buildings in the downtown area. A lot of the buildings we've already looked at here on the channel. So he said, well, I can take you around and give you a little tour of some of these buildings. Being a Freemason, we built a lot of the buildings, he says. And I'm like, oh, did you now? Okay, well, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to have him give us a little bit of a guided tour. So I'm going to be doing that sometime in the late spring, early summer. Megan says he's planning on a 4-subscriber meetup. There you go. Like I said, it's just an excuse to meet up with a bunch of you. Had a great time last year with the 1,000 subscriber meetup, and we did a pretty interesting area of the city, and that's kind of Stephen Avenue, historic Stephen Avenue, 8th Avenue downtown. And I kind of want to keep doing that sort of a theme, so I thought this summer would be great to do Inglewood, one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city, so they say. So yeah, there you go. That's what's coming up the channel here in the next few months or so. So great to see all of you here once again. Thanks for joining me. YouTube and Rumble. Hello, everyone. Links below in the description box for everything. MeWe, BitChute, Rumble, the guy's email as well. So if you want to email me with some photographs, show ideas, or you just want to say, hey, Frankie, how's it going there, hey, buddy? Links for everything in the description below. If you haven't already, maybe consider giving a guy a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It's fine. I'm not going to toss and turn. It just helps to push me out into the algorithm. It's a smaller channel, so it's great if you can help a guy out. Share the link for this stream. Let people know, hey, there's this crazy Canuck up there in Calgary, Alberta, and Canada land. He's got a pretty good live show there. If you haven't subscribed already and you're kicking around the idea, hey, I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire or nothing, but it's just going to help get us closer to that 1,500 if you do. So thank you if you have already. All right. Enough with all of that formalities out of the way. We're 20 minutes into this thing, and we haven't even looked at any records or anything. So again, what got this thing going was the artwork on album covers, vinyl record album covers. It's a nice large space compared to a CD or back in the day a cassette, right? Let me just pull out a CD here just to show you, right? Oh, here we go. Right, so you got the Jeff Healey Band, nice Canadian blues rock band. God rest his soul, Jeff Healey, blind blues guitar player, right? But it's what's that? 4 inches by 4 inches. You can't really see much on that, even if I bring her in nice and close, like. But with an album cover, you got a lot more space to work with. So the band or the marketing or A&R department or whatever at the record company can hire a photographer to go out and take some beautiful photographs, or they can hire an artist to do, I don't know, watercolor painting for the album cover, all kinds of stuff, right? Even if it's just a picture of the band, like every AC/DC album cover ever, right? And the other thing, excuse me, I was having a slurp of my my tea. Cheers to you, by the way. Get some hot tea going here. Are you kidding me? Really? Jabberoo Joe says last time I had a meetup, it turned into a punch-up. Oh, that's not fun. Did you at least go for a couple of pints afterwards? Marita's saying about 25 degrees Celsius in the Netherlands. Wow. That's hovering around 80 Fahrenheit. That's a nice, mild summer day here. Like if it's 25 degrees Celsius here, that's about, 9, 10 in the morning on a early summer day. That's lovely. Yeah, early summer, right, Terry? Sounds nice. Yeah, I'd go for plus 25 right now. But again, it's not freezing out there. We've had snow, but it has not been super, super duper cold. None of that minus 30 stuff. I think that's long down in the rear view for a guy. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that was the cause. A dozen pints. Well, there you go. It's going to happen. They're doing a Bon Scott movie. Really? And a young Aussie bloke's going to be playing Bon. Huh. Are they doing... So it's a movie focused just on Bon Scott? Or is it going to be about AC/DC in general? By the way, AC/DC is one of those bands that either version, Bon Scott, initial original lineup, Bon Scott lead vocals, or Brian Johnson, Mark II lead vocals. I'm fine. I like them both. Different voices, totally different styles of singing, totally different style of, or a totally different attitude when they sang as well, right? The Bon was much more sort of sarcastic, tongue in cheek. He's got that rapier wit with not only the songwriting but the delivery of the lyrics as he's singing them, right? And as mentioned, it's like kind of a cool voice. But Brian Johnson's got a cool voice too, just more raspy and gravelly. Oh, it's about just Bon Scott himself. Okay, well, that should be interesting. I like those kinds of movies, like those biopic movies about music, musicians or what have you, right? Like, the one they did, what was it, Walk the Line, about Johnny Cash there with Joaquin Phoenix. That was pretty dang good. The movie Ray, about Ray Charles there with Jamie Foxx. That was fantastical. All them shits. They're great. I like those movies. Anyway, the other reason why I thought I would kick around this topic here tonight is obviously music's important to a guy, right? If you've been around a fellow's channel here for a while, every Wednesday I upload your midweek vintage footage video. And I usually scour the interwebs and find some old school footage. I try to find as old as I can, anywhere from, the 1890s up to maybe the 1950s at the latest. And even that's 1950s, even that's pushing it. And I like to set it to music, and I like to try to put Canadian music if I can. I'm a Canadian, eh? The guy's up here in Canada land. It's my channel's up here in Canada. I don't always do Canadian music, but 9 times out of 10, or the 80-20 rule, 80% of the time, let's say. Or now you're getting a train going by. Got a couple of sirens, now you got a train going in the background there. Let's see how many diesel engines are pulling this thing here. Just gonna look out the window. 1, 2, 3, 4. They got 4 engines. Well, it's gonna be a long one, eh? Anyway, and I like to kind of mess around with the type of music. I try to find music that has hidden meaning or deeper meaning. Not that there's anything wrong with surface level party your ass off, party hardy, right on, dude type music, But I try to match lyrics and the content of the music with the video that I'm showing, right? Even if it's just very loosely associated with the content. And I've often talked about the music that I use. And I think I've made mention of my record collection a couple of times, maybe here on the channel. Fella's got over 1,200 records. And about 800 of those are blues albums, blues/blues rock, right? Like a guy will put the Eric Clapton in the blues/blues rock section, right? But I got the Muddy Waters and the Howlin' Wolf and the Sonny Boy Williamson in the same sections, right? It's all alphabetized. So I got about 800 blues records, about 300 classic rock /80s rock records. And then the other 100 or 150-ish or so is, jazz and, R&B, soul music, right? Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin, James Brown, Stevie Wonder, that kind of good stuff. So I was flipping through some of my blues records. A guy will listen to a couple of records on the old turntable on the stereo system here, and then you got to put all that stuff away. That's the only disadvantage to the physical medium of listening to albums, records, right? Is you got to clean all that stuff up and file it back in your shelf or whatever afterwards. And in doing so, I was noticing once again, the pictures on a lot of these covers, and I'm like, man, blues albums in particular like to show a lot of old world buildings and stuff on the front of their album covers. So I pulled out a couple of dozen. I thought we'd share. But before that, I want to show you a weird record that I found at a record store. Guy's pretty lucky. There's about 5 record stores within a half-hour walk of my place. So on a nice day, on my day off, I might go to 2 or 3 record stores, while I'm out, picking up my groceries or running errands or whatever I got to do. Go rooting through the dollar bins or see if I can find a good deal on a BB King album or, whatever, right? So I was flipping through at a record store. Shit, I don't know. It may have been as late as last summer. I don't think it was recently, but anyway, that's not the point. I found this weird record, so I thought I'd show it to you. And I thought we'd give it a listen. So here's this record that I found, okay? It's called The Story of Mr. World. The world's only talking globe. And after looking into this a little bit, this record would come with the globe, right? So you'd buy a globe from this company, and then this record would come with the globe, and it would give you the story of Mr. World and teach you how to use the globe. And I thought that was very, very interesting for folks like us in our line of research. With that whole the Earth's like a beach ball nonsense. Now it's the size of a 45 RPM 7-inch single. Comes in this nice picture sleeve, but it's a full length 33 1/3 record. It's not a full length album, but you don't have to play it at 45 RPM like you used to have to do with those old 7-inch singles back in the day. Like the ones that used to be in jukeboxes and whatnot. You know what? A lot of rock videos. Well, not just rock. A lot of music videos in general, whether it's rock, hip hop, jazz, country. Yeah, they're gonna have a lot of old world ruins, or I don't know, have the band performing in an old world building, or just whatever. They're gonna have all kinds of stuff in the background, right? And I think a lot of people, just like in real life, driving or commuting to work, and every day they drive past the same glorious old world structure, they just don't really notice anymore, right? And I'm guilty of that. Before I kind of gave my head a shake and started to kind of come around to what's going on out there and the lies and the deceptions that have been perpetrated upon us for these many generations now. I was the same way. I mean, I'd noticed because they're different and they're more attractive, but they weren't. My attention wasn't grabbed by them like it has been in the last decade or so, maybe a bit longer, actually. I kind of started coming around to the quote unquote alternative history, truth research thing right around the time that some airplanes smashed into some skyscrapers in some city called New York, New York. But anyways, just like Terry's saying, like, yeah, pure propaganda. I was just flipping through. This was actually shoved in with the 45 RPM 7-inch singles. And I was flipping through there and I saw this and I'm like, wait, what? The story of Mr. World. So I took it home and cleaned it and played it, and it doesn't skip or anything like that. There's a little bit of surface noise. Now, I did a test run yesterday with this. I played it on my turntable, which is actually just right here, right below my background shenanigans. My stereo and my turntable are like just out of frame. And I did a little test run. And unfortunately, the sound wasn't all that good playing that record live and just pointing, my speakers at my microphone. Yeah. It didn't sound all that great. So what I did was I actually recorded the record into a digital file, because a fella's got a turntable that can do that too, eh? And I created a little video. I found some vintage NASA space and moon exploration footage. So I created a little video with side 1 and side 2 of this record. No editing or anything at all. Just let it play through, flipped it over, and let it play through on side two, and put it together with a little video montage of some NASA shenanigans. So I thought we'd do that first, then take a mid-show break, give you a sneak peek at your midweek vintage footage video coming up for Wednesday. And then when we come back, we'll look at some album covers. What do you think? Huh? Huh? Yeah, that's right. You'd get your globe, and you would get the record would come with it, and it was your instructions. But wait till you get a load of this. Some of the stuff that they say. It's well, you'll see. Okay, I'm not going to leave you hanging any longer. By the way, the home remedies with my sinus flu or whatever I had. Here was my symptoms, right? Chills and fever, and then all of a sudden boiling hot, right? Headache due to sinus congestion, or super runny nose, right? I mean, 1 minute it's you can't breathe through your nostrils, and the next minute Niagara Falls of mucus coming out the nostrils, and a bit of a cough. So Friday night before I went to bed, Vicks Vapor Rub on the bottom of my feet and in between the feller's toes, both my feet, put some socks on, slid into bed. Got a decent night's sleep. Got up the next day, felt quite a bit better. The sinus congestion was gone. The fever and the chills and all that, gone. Temperature back to normal. But still a little congested and still a little bit of a tickly throat with a nagging cough. So then Saturday night, fella goes to bed. What does he do? Sticks an onion in a sock, sticks his socks on his feet, crawls into bed. All right? Get up Sunday morning, feel fantastic. Again, fever and hot and cold chills and all that, gone. Sinus congestion, still there a bit like the day before, but a little better. No headache. Cough still there, but reduced significantly. So now, could that be? I mean, this isn't the perfect scientific experiment. Could I have felt better the next day, anyways, even without the onion? Perhaps. But did the onion work? I think it did. Is it mind over matter? Don't know. Don't care. It worked. So if you've ever got a bad cold, with the sniffles or sinus congestion, and you feel all chilly and feverish, you just feel like death warmed over, give her a shot. Try just not a green onion or anything, but just a regular yellow onion or Spanish onion, right? In one sock. Put your foot in that sock. Well, wear 2 socks, but put an onion in one sock. Just get into bed. Now, don't go eating that onion the next day there now. Get rid of that onion afterwards. Don't go making French onion soup with it now. It's not the point. I think that onion is supposed to draw out the toxins that are making you feel ill. I don't know. No, it wasn't a stomach thing. I didn't have the Coke Slurpees. No squirting Hershey's whatsoever. It wasn't a stomach thing at all. It was all head and chest area. 3 fingers in the box. Hello. Good to see you. Jason Marshall is here as well. Howdy, Jason. My brother. Still, yeah, we're still here. He thought I was nuts. I mean, he knew I was sick, but he thought I was nuts when I was telling him I was putting the onion in the sock. But he's the one that somebody else told him about that years ago, a coworker. She was like from some Eastern European country or something. And they were at work, and he was all congested, stuffed up, fever, cough due to cold, the whole bit, right? And he's pissing and moaning about it. Well, not really, but he's just like, coughing and sneezing a bit at work. She's like, what's the matter with you? Oh, I'm sick. Put an onion in your sock, she says. So there you go. And last week, Marit. Where's Marit's channel? Hidden in plain sight. Marit, there. Where's Marit? suggested the same thing. So I don't know why it works, but it does. But he's the reason I got sick, I think, because he was sick first. And rather than relegating himself to his room and getting rest, he just camped out on the couch in the living room and played Xbox for 3 days, coughing and sneezing all over everything. Great. Thanks. Old World, Michigan in the box. Hello, hello. Good to see you. All right, so what do you say? Let's get on with this record. Once again, as a reminder, I found it while digging through the record bins at one of my local record stores. I've been collecting vinyl records since 1985, by the way. First album I bought with my own money, Led Zeppelin 2. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, I recorded this on my special turntable, made it into a digital file, put it up into a little video with some crazy NASA footage from roughly the same time period, by the way, the 60s. This is from 1961. Is it 61? 62. My mistake. Right there. 1962. So let's have a look at that. I'll be able to pause it, I think, and all that like we normally do, and make wisecracks and whatnot. But let me just get this thing queued up here. School-a-doo-doo. Don't even remember how long it is. It's not that long. Is this it? I think this is it. Yeah, it's 15 minutes long. All right. Here we go. Actually, I'm going to stay in the corner. I'm going to stay in the corner.
The world is so full of a number of things, I'm sure we should all be as happy as kings.
Okay, so can you hear that okay? Is the volume... Okay, I've got the volume jacked up as high as it'll go. So I guess if the volume is not okay, then tough beans? I don't know, because it's cranked to the max. But hopefully you can hear it okay. I did try to, soften some of the surface noise from the vinyl itself, right? But because it's an actual physical needle on the actual physical record, and it's picking up the electronic signal just like an old school turntable does, and transmitting, or basically shooting that into my computer, into my audio software editing, or audio editing software. You could tell I'm not a real technologically skilled guy here, but anyways. So even though I clean the surface of the record really good with, vinyl record cleaner and all that, it's still going to pick up a couple of crackles. So I tried to filter some of that out without losing too much of the volume. Okay, Maggot says it's fantastic. All right, good. All right. So here we go.
It seems fitting to begin the story of Mr. World with the words of Robert Louis Stevenson, the famous writer and world traveler. For now, you have a world of your own, filled with more wonders than you ever dreamed of.
So, yeah, quite literally, I guess you have a world of your own because, like I said, this record came when you would buy a globe, a little desktop globe, boop, for your classroom or for at home, So you quite literally have a world of your own if you buy one of those globes and you get one of these records with it.
Turn your globe slowly and watch its countries, islands, and oceans fly beneath you, as though you were an astronaut miles and miles above the Earth.
Oh yeah, miles and miles.
Your Replogal globe is a miniature model of the Earth itself. Because it's round, like the Earth, it shows us who all our neighbors are. Look straight down at the North Pole.
It's round. Sure. Yeah, I would agree it's round. Is it a sphere, though? That's what they want to tell these little childrens that they're listening to this record and playing along with their new globe. So let's look directly down at the North Pole on our globe, shall we, kids? Well, we can't because there's a peg in it that allows you to rotate the darn thing. So you can't actually look down at the North Pole on your globe because that's where the axle is that allows you to spin the globe. But anyway. Oh yeah, the footage you're seeing in the background, yeah, that's old NASA stuff from the Gemini missions and the Mercury and Gemini missions, supposedly. You know, testing and getting ready for the Apollo missions to go to the moon, you see, in a little tin can. So yeah, you're going to see all kinds of wacky shenanigans with the video.
Isn't that a surprising view of the world? Notice how many great countries form a circle around the pole. See how close we are to northern Europe and Asia. Alaska, our vast 49th state, almost touches the coast of Russia. The Bering Strait between is only 56 miles wide.
Obviously coming at you from an American point of view, where he says our, 49th state or whatever he says there, talking about Alaska. As a Canadian, Alaska is not one of my states at all because I'm Canadian, eh? Kathy's in the box. Hello, hello. Sorry I'm late. Don't you dare apologize for being late, Kathy. No apology necessary. Good to have you here either way. Thank you for kicking off your Friday with us here. We're listening to a record that I found at a record store. And apparently this record would come when you would buy a globe. So this is the record we're listening to. It's called The Story of Mr. World.
Pretend you're flying from Chicago to Tokyo over Alaska. We have a habit of saying Japan is in the Far East, but you can see now that Japan is really near west from us. Doesn't your globe give you a new idea of directions? Now look at the United States and Canada, and you'll see that they're almost the same size. On one of the best-known flat maps, called a Mercator map, Canada looks twice as large as the United States.
Well, we're not twice as large, but I think we're a third larger. I don't mean to brag, but it's Canada. We don't have much to brag about, so I got to take them as they come.
And Greenland looks larger than South America, though your globe shows you that Greenland is much smaller than Brazil. Because your globe is round like the Earth, it shows the true sizes and shapes of countries.
See, he keeps saying that the globe is round. He's not saying that it's a sphere or a ball. Now, I suppose it's redundant to use the term globe and sphere. I mean, they both mean the same thing. But globe or sphere and round do not mean the same thing.
Listen now to the thrilling sound of the space age.
3, 2, 1, fire.
Trajectory A-OK.
Here's an exciting way to use your globe. Track the path of the astronaut as he orbits the Earth in 88 minutes. Use a crayon on the glossy globe surface. It'll wipe off. Follow the spaceman as he swings into orbit over Bermuda, sails above the Atlantic and over the heart of Africa, zooms across the Indian Ocean and over Australia 5 miles a second, then speeds above the blue Pacific, home to the United States. And here's something mighty interesting. Even the astronaut is using a globe in his space capsule to pinpoint his position at all times.
You don't say. He's just got one on his desk up in
find
the
places you study about
capsule,
or hear
is it?
about in the news. But there's so much more your globe can tell you about our world. All the lines and symbols on it have a meaning. Look at the lines running east and west around the globe. Then notice the lines that cross them and run from the North to the South Pole. They're like streets in your city because they help us find places on Earth. We call them lines of latitude and longitude. You may be surprised to know that they were invented by the ancient Greeks over 2,000 years ago.
And Ben Franklin invented daylight savings time and discovered electricity and tried to invade Canada in the winter.
When you read your book, The Story of the Globe, you'll discover all the fascinating uses of these important lines and symbols. Because it's a true likeness, let's imagine that your globe really is the Earth. Like all planets, Earth is a great traveler.
Is it a true likeness? Well, he just said so I guess it has to be. But even if I had one here, which I don't, I kind of wish I had one of the globes that this record came with by the Replogle, Replogle Globes Incorporated in Chicago, Illinois, USA. Anyways, it's not quite though, is it? Because the surface of the globe is smooth, right? It doesn't have little dips and divots or little bumps on it to represent, lower levels, or like the Rocky Mountains or the Alps or whatever, right? Howdy, Sig. 6 air in the box. Thanks for shooting in, joining the feller. Appreciate it. Anyway, let's keep her going here.
In fact, planet is the Greek word for wanderer. The Earth is like a spinning top that never runs down. It spins very fast, over 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. And as it spins, it keeps moving around the sun at the amazing speed of 19 miles a second. Mr. World's trip is a long one.
19 miles a second's fast. Can you feel it, kids? Can you feel it? Nope. Not at all. Unless I stand in one spot and spin myself around like a top and get dizzy, and then eventually upchuck.
600 million miles. It takes him a little over 365 days to make one journey around the sun. That's how the year got its length. It's hard to realize we're traveling with the Earth at such terrific speed. If you were going 80 miles an hour in a train, you'd feel you were traveling very fast because buildings and telegraph poles would flash by as you looked out the window. But we can't feel Earth's motion because all things around us are moving at the same speed, even the air we breathe.
So the air, the water, the little birdies in the trees, the Canadian cobra chickens, everything is whipping around at the same speed. But then later on, they'll tell you, well, actually, the speed is different at the poles than it is at the equator because the Earth is a ball. So it's not the same speed, but it is the same speed, but it's not the same speed. I don't know.
Maybe you're wondering what keeps Mr. World from bumping into the sun or taking a wrong direction. Well,
Nope.
there
But
are two
they tell me
wonderful
anyway, I
laws
guess.
in the universe that work like a tug of war to keep the Earth in orbit. One is called gravity. Throw a ball up into the air, and you'll see how gravity pulls it down so you can catch it. No one knows what gravity really is. It's one of the unsolved mysteries of the universe.
But they call it the law of gravity, when really it should be the theory of gravity, much like the theory of relativity or the Big Bang theory, because it's just best guess, right? From guys with clipboards and glasses and white lab coats and whatnots and diplomas on the walls and so on and so forth.
The sun, the planets, and even the moon have the pulling power of gravity. The bigger a thing is, the greater its pull. Earth moves so fast, it would fly out into space in a straight line if it weren't for the pull of the sun.
Is gravity really pulling, or is it more pushing? Like they say, we're being pulled down by Earth's gravity. But then we're spinning so fast that centrifugal force should also like send us shooting out. So is gravity more of pushing? When we see the ebbs and flows of the rising and falling of the tides of the oceans that are affected by the moon, is it the moon pulling on the surface of the waters of our realm, or is it the moon pushing?
Earth's speed creates an opposite pull that equals the pull of the sun. This is the other law, and it's called centrifugal force. Space scientists call it the G-force. And that's a clue to the way scientists are using these laws now.
So that ties in nicely with the eclipse coming up soon, right? As they say, well, the reason why it's the way it is because the moon and the sun and the earth are all the perfect distance away from each other, and they're all a certain right size from each other, so that the moon just happens to perfectly block out the sun. And kind of the same thing with this shenanigans on this little kiddie's record that they get free with their first little globe. Is that you see the pull and the push and the spinning there, well, they're equals, so they all cancel each other out. Oh yeah, any kind of fruit flies, tsetse flies, aphids, gnats, ticks, fleas, and even the tiniest of insects. Oh yeah, they're very strong and muscular to be able to fly against the 800-mile-per-hour spinning effect of the earth.
When a spaceship travels at just the right speed, 5 miles a second, and high enough above the Earth, the inner pull of gravity and the outer pull of centrifugal force become equal, and the astronaut stays in orbit around the Earth. The spinning Earth is always turning a new face toward the sun. This makes time different all over the world. Here's a game you can play to watch a day grow around the Earth. Have someone represent the sun by shining a flashlight at your globe while you darken the room. Turn the globe so North and South America are facing your imaginary sun. Now it's daytime in this part of the world, while the other half is in darkness. Keep turning your globe slowly from west to east, the way the Earth really turns.
By the way, in that video that's playing while we're listening to this wacky record, why is that kid putting his head between the astronauts? Don't get your head out of there, kid. That's weird.
See the sun come to Hawaii.
Oh, I get it. He's pretending he's an astronaut blasting off into space. Okay. It's still weird, though.
Then Asia, Europe, and Africa. In 24 hours, the Earth has made one full turn, the time it takes the sun to complete its round-the-world visit. Now you see why the clock was invented. Our wonderful old Earth is responsible for the way we measure time.
Okay, so can you tell us why they've changed the Roman numeral for 4 from what used to be an I and then a V, right? 5 minus 1 gives you 4, to now just four number ones, right? Used to be I and then a V. Now it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, Terry's like, wait, what? Why was time invented? Well, let's see here. What does he say?
Full turn, the time it takes the sun to complete its round-the-world visit. Now you see why the clock was invented. Our wonderful old Earth is responsible for the way we measure time.
So far, that's about the only thing I would agree with from this record, is that, the Earth, well, slash moon, sun, and Earth, right, is how we measure time. Or the passage of time, right? In fact, I would say that more specifically the sun and the moon, more so than the movement of the Earth. But Sure, yeah, 365 days ish, 12 months, all that stuff. Sure, sure. Yeah, that's right. The Earth invented time. Yeah, Earth, Sun, and Moon invented time. We may have invented ways to measure time or measure the movement. Oh yeah, yeah. That's why they got to throw in leap years and all the months have different numbers of days, and you know.
Your globe has a special clock that tells you what time it is anywhere in the world. It's the black and white dial over the North Pole. If you set the dial at 9 o'clock in the morning in Chicago,
Yeah, see, they put everything on the top of your globe, so you can't actually see the North Pole on your globe. So they don't have to represent the North Pole on your globe. So they can make up whatever narrative they want about the North Pole on your globe. Because they put the little disc at the top of your globe with all the time zones on it and all the measurements for all the angles and whatnot. Plus, again, the axle for the spindle to spin your globe comes up boop, through the top of your globe, through the North Pole. So you can't see squat on your North Pole on your globe.
you'll find it's 3 o'clock in London and it's midnight in Japan. Here's another of Earth's mysteries. Your globe tips at an angle, just the way the Earth is tipped. If the Earth were straight up and down, the sun would strike all parts of it the same way year around. We'd always have the same season, and days and nights would always be the same length. Life might get very dull for some of us if we could never look forward to the joys of winter. See spring come with returning birds.
And returning
Enjoy the long
Cobra chickens.
days of summer, or thrill to the glorious colors of autumn. Earth is the only home we've ever known, and it seems very big and important to us. Its surface, almost 200 million square miles, would hold 65 countries the size of the United States. But do you know the sun is 12,000 times larger than Earth? And Earth isn't the largest planet. 8 other planets revolve around the sun, all different sizes and distances away. They're all members of one big family called the solar system.
neural mass in the box. Yeah, the sound effects are hilarious. Yeah, well, it's 1962 when they recorded and pressed this record and sent it out. It was, so, yeah, this thing here. So, yeah, you're going to get some hanky, pretty corny sound effects for sure. Good to see you, Neural Mass, by the way. Thanks for shooting in.
With the sun at the head of the family. And scientists tell us that the universe contains thousands and thousands of solar systems. Our closest neighbor, only 240,000 miles away, is the moon, which circles the Earth once about every 28 days. Someday, when we travel to other planets, the moon will be a good stopping-off place. The moon is much smaller than Earth, and its gravity much weaker. You could jump 6 times higher on the moon. But because the moon is so close, we feel its gravity.
See, they say all of this, and it's 1962. So technically, they haven't even gone to the moon yet. Although I don't think they ever did. But that's me. That's my personal opinion. I don't think we went to the moon. But even had, let's just say they had. And again, that's my personal opinion about whether or not man is bippity bopped on the moon. But let's say that they had. Well, this is, what was that, 1969? So this is 7 years before that. By the way, they're still talking about, let's use the moon as a jumping off point to do deep space travel. Let's build some moon bases. They've been talking about that since the 60s. Even in the 1970s, when I was a kid, there was a show on TV called Space 1999, because it was set in the year 1999, and there was already bases on the moon. And they were using that as jumping off points to not only travel between the Earth and the moon, but also to travel to other planets. So it's 2024. This is 1962. They're still jabber-jacking about the same BS. Nance Hardwick in the box. Hello, hello. Hi, Frankie. Sounds like they were... Sounds like they think we're stupid. Yeah. Well, admittedly, the guy who's narrating this record is narrating it. It's aimed at children, right? Because what we're listening to is a recording I made of this record I found in the record store a while back. And this would come free with your globe. You'd buy this globe and you'd get this record that came with it. So, yeah, I mean, he's got that Mr. Rogers tone to his voice.
It works like a magnet, pulling the tides in our oceans. Twice a day, our oceans rise and fall because of the moon's gravity. Scientists say some of us will learn to live on the moon, but it won't be very comfortable. For one thing, the moon has no air. The first astronauts will have to walk around in spacesuits and carry oxygen with them. As more astronauts come, they'll build bases filled with air that can always be kept at the same temperature. This is important because the days are 2 weeks long and temperatures rise higher than 200 degrees. When night comes, it also lasts 2 weeks, with the temperature plunging to 200 degrees below zero.
Is that 200 degrees Fahrenheit or 200 degrees Celsius? I guess because it's the United States, it's Fahrenheit. Either way, it's colder than a witch's elbow or hotter than Satan's taint, depending on if you're in the dark or in the light, supposedly. Again, they know all this, but they haven't been there, even by their own narrative, right? This is 1962. Apparently, they did do, a floop-de-loop flyby around the moon before actually doing the landing and the hippity hopping, and then later on taking a doom buggy up there. But not going to lie, though, you don't get much more of an American idea than let's fly 200,000 miles to what's supposed to be another celestial body. And then when we get there, let's unload our dune buggy and go cruising. What are you looking for up there? Chicks? A beach party?
And the moon is a lonely place, filled with huge, deep craters and jagged mountains, higher than those on Earth, with no grass or trees anywhere, not a living thing. So far as anyone knows, the Earth is the only world with all the right ingredients to support man. 3 billion of us, in fact, along with 500,000 different kinds of animals, and 250,000 species of plants. Earth has just the right atmosphere, and its distance from the sun, 93 million miles, gives us just the right temperature and amount of light. Chances are we wouldn't want to trade it for any other planet. Earth speaks in many voices. Listen. There's the gentle sound of ocean surf.
Unless there's a tsunami coming.
And here's a familiar sound, a spring rain. Earth has angry voices, too, when it speaks, in hurricanes.
Oh, yeah, that's not fun. Tornadoes.
Volcanoes. Earthquakes. But there is one voice that has never been heard before.
All right, getting back to music here for a quick second, and getting back to blues or blues rock or blues music or blues adjacent. Again, I'm a huge blues music fan. The majority of my 1,200 vinyl records collection, the majority of them are blues records. But if you've heard of a band called the Black Keys, a couple of young fellers that kind of have a new take on the blues, they're pretty cool, especially their first few albums. There's a song on one of their albums. Can't remember the name of the song. Can't remember the name of the album. Sorry. It is what it is. But they sample this upcoming little tidbit from the voice of Mr. Earth that we're about to hear on this record. Just a little fun fact there for you from from Frankie Fingers? Frankie Fingers fun fact?
The voice of old Mr. World himself, the way he might sound if he could speak to us in our own language. Mr. World, how was this wonderful, orderly Earth of ours formed in the first place? And how long has it been going on?
I am the Earth, the planet you call home. Scientists believe I'm at least 4.5 billion years old, but no man yet knows my true age. How did I begin? Many scientists think I was once part of the sun, that another star approached too close, and the masses which broke off became planets. Others believe I started as a spinning ball of flaming gas.
Some believe this, others believe that. All right. It's not really, so what you're saying, it's not really carved in stone then. You can't really give us anything, any kind of degree of accuracy or anything. No? All right. Thanks. But my theories, those are crazy ramblings of some kind of wacky Canadian. Is that it? Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Go ahead.
I grew cooler and changed into a boiling, bubbling liquid. Ages went by before I cooled enough to form a crust on my surface. But I was still very, very hot inside. Liquid fire burst through my crust, breaking it up into rocks that shot high in the air and collided in a boiling mass. It took millions of years before my crust finally became a solid surface.
Millions of you. Millions and millions? Millions.
Rocks that shot high in the air.
Millions and billions? Wait, now millions or millions and millions or billions or trillions? I don't like, he's saying millions. How many millions? Hundreds millions or 2 millions?
And collided in a boiling mass. It took millions of years before
Hundreds of millions? Tens of millions? Just millions. Okay.
my crust finally became a solid surface. Gradually, it grew thicker, rising and folding to form mountains, hills, and valleys. Heavy clouds closed me in, hiding the face of the sun, and a deluge of rain fell for thousands of years, forming my stream.
Thousands of years or 40 days and 40 nights deluge? Yeah, I guess they couldn't. I guess in 1962, and narrating this to an 8-year-old, they didn't want the kid to, for his brain to do a mental hiccup. So they didn't want to give him an exact number of, 2,968,725,216, right? Because then this 8-year-old's mind would just be like, boy, boy. Right? So I guess they just said millions. Just give you a nice, vague, round number. Millions. Yeah, gradually it became thicker, like the humans who would later inhabit it. Exactly. Exactly.
Rivers and seas. At last the rain was over. I felt the rays of the sun. Then came the winds and all the forces that gave me weather and climate. Rocks hold the secrets of my past. Search them, to learn the events that shaped my history. How long will I live? How long?
Wait, did you hear that? Research out. Wait, I'm going to go back here a little bit because he says a couple of things. First, he says all the forces that would cause winds and weather and climate. And I'm like, well, wait a second. And seasons or something. And I'm like, wait, I thought that was supposed to be the tilt, they say, that causes the seasons and the different weather and different climates. But he's saying, just the forces of the earth forming. So they don't mention the tilt in this part. But then he says something else, too. He says, something like something about look into it, basic study it, kind of a thing. I rolled it back a few seconds. Let me just listen again here.
Then came the winds and all the forces that gave me weather and climate.
Okay, all the forces that gave me weather and climate. Not the tilting on its axis, supposedly. Mr. Beast fan in the box. Howdy, howdy.
Rocks hold the secrets of my past. Search them to learn the events that shaped my history.
Yes, rocks hold the secrets to my past. Learn them to see the events that shape my history. Yeah, but don't ask any questions. And don't offer up any other alternative theories that may go against the theories that this guy on this here record was telling you about. Learn it if it's the official narrative, is basically what he's saying.
How long will I live? How long will the sun live? I do not know. Only the great creator of the world and universe knows the answer.
Nothing like scaring the crap out of a little kid that's listening to this. You're 8 years old, and the voice of supposedly Mr. World, right? The earth is telling you, how long will I live? I don't know. Wait, what? So you might not live till tomorrow? I don't know, kid. Just look at your globe, listen to the record, and don't ask any questions. This next part, though, at least he does mention the great creator, I think. Although that could be, they could spin that too. I don't think he's talking about God per se. But, yeah. We'll see. I'm not sure. Like, who knows who wrote the script for this, right? I don't know who wrote the script for this thing.
To learn the events that shaped my history. How long will I live? How long will the sun live? I do not know. Only the great creator of the world and universe knows the answer. And 1,000,000 years is as a day in his sight.
All right, so there you go. That is the story of Mr. World. So what did you think of that? Not too shabby. I should get a merch store going and get t-shirts with that saying on them. What do you think of that? Anyway, I'm just reading the back of this record here real quick. Lowell Thomas Jr. is the name of the man who's narrating this here record. It says he began his travels in a laundry basket at the age of 12 weeks when his parents brought him home to New York State from his birthplace in London. What? Why would they bring him all the way from London to New York in a laundry basket? Already I'm calling shenanigans, but anyway. As a youth, He attended the coronation of King George VI. That's kind of cool. Sailed around South America and went on two exploring expeditions to Alaska and to the Canadian Rockies. Really, who is he? Why is he able to afford to do all this? During WW2, he served as an Air Force pilot and instructor, and in 1946 was present for the first A-bomb test at Bikini. This guy's been everywhere, supposedly, at all these significant points in history. He's a graduate of Dartmouth. In 1949, he organized the expedition to Tibet and Lhasa, the trip which attracted worldwide attention when he succeeded in getting his father safely across the Himalayas to India after a serious accident on a 17,000-foot pass. His book/story of this trip, Out of This World, became a bestseller. Mr. Thomas has journeyed to Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, Africa. Where in Africa? Africa isn't a country, it's a continent. You can't just say Africa. Tell me where in Africa. Africa is huge. North Africa is way different than East, West, South, or Central Africa. Anyway, the North Pole. This guy's been to the North Pole. Greenland. Now makes his home in Anchorage, Alaska, with his wife and children. His travels have provided materials for several successful books, motion picture films, and illustrated lectures. All right. Give a lot of a hubbub about this guy who's narrating it, but it doesn't say who wrote it or anything like that. So, yeah, there you go. The story of Mr. World. North to Alaska. Yeah, that's an oldie but a goodie. At least Mr. Universe has muscles. Mr. World only chuckles. It's pretty funny. I mean, it's definitely propaganda. I mean, you're like right out of the gates, right? And this is, I mean, the little picture on the, on the sleeve of the record. This is not a classroom setting. This is at home. So this, I mean, they got a globe at school in their classroom, undoubtedly, and also here at home with a record that they can listen to. I mean, at the very bottom, one of the very last sentence on the tagline here is, all through the school years, children will play it again and again as a constant aid in the study and use of the globe. If I was a kid, I wouldn't listen to this again and again. Why? Not when I can be listening to some of the records we're going to have a look at here in about 3.5 minutes or so. Speaking of singing songs, I think I'm going to take a mid-show break and give you a sneak peek at your midweek coming up for this coming Wednesday. Going to be looking at, as I cue it up here, some rare footage from the fair, the World's Fair in San Fran, 1915. And if you got headphones, put them on, because I put it to a groovy Canadian tune. Not groovy as in, ooh, that's groovy psychedelic, man, but a good Canadian rock tune. So yeah, if you got some headphones, put them on. Turn your volume knob up to like 11 there, eh? And smoke them if you got them. It's 4 minutes, and then we'll be right back, and we shall look at some of my album covers and see what we can see for old world stuff. So I'll be back in 4. Cheers. All right, and we are back. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Thank you very much for shooting in, joining me here once again. It's your old pal Frankie. New West Reset live episode 60. Here today on this Friday, April the 5th, 2024. 6:30 p.m. on the button here, local time, mountain time, coming at you from Purdy, Alberta, southern Alberta here, Calgary, Alberta, up in Canadian land, and there's some sirens for you. That's how you know it's a real show, folks. Still hovering at +1 Celsius, which isn't bad considering we had about 5 inches of snow. So I've got the window open there. Oh, look, you're getting a twofer, and a train is going by. Wow. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me here. Appreciate it, as always. That was a look at some rare footage of the 1915 World's Fair in San Fran. The tune by the Tragically Hip, my favorite Canadian rock band. The song called Greasy Jungle. Greasy Jungle, Metropolis Noir. My pal Bill is here. Hey, Bill. Good to see you. Hello, hello. Yeah, it's kind of like a trademark now. It's ridiculous. It is what it is. Well, you know, you get all kinds of stuff here on the show, right? You get sirens. You get your Frankie fingers.
So, Tommy, where have you been, huh? I've been watching New West Reset. Huh? Well, you know, it's New West Reset. It's this thing on YouTube. He goes around, he does his boots on the ground thing. I'll tell you.
Say you care.
You know, you get your Cobra chickens, all kinds of stuff going on around here. You know, never a dull moment here on the New West Reset live show, episode 60. The old world in my record collection. So at the top half of the show, we were listening to this weird old record that I found when digging through one of my local record stores. The story of Mr. World came with the globe that you'd buy, you see, from this company. Narrated by this supposedly some world traveler bigwig guy. I don't know. Cindy was saying Lowell Thomas was a politician there in Alaska. Yeah, see, there you go. This is Lowell Thomas Jr., but they do make mention of his father. But I would imagine that Jr. also was probably a politician at some point, you know, when he wasn't busy traveling the world, apparently. So if you're just joining me, thank you very much. Maybe give a feller one of these. Appreciate it. Share the stream. Let your friends know, hey, there's some wacky stuff going up over there in Canada. Frankie's showing his records. So here we go. Without further ado, let's look into these things here. No particular order, really. Just pulling out a bunch of random blues albums from my collection. Again, I've got about 1,200 vinyl records. Around 800 of them are blues records. It's my thing. I like blues. What can I say? This is Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, Get on Board, featuring Coyle McMahon. But look at this. Especially those houses on the hill in the background. Very, very interesting. The thumbnail is a series of 3 in the series of albums. Chicago, the Blues Today. This is volume 1. I have all 3. This is volume 1. You can see there the old L, the Chicago L, and a bunch of, unfortunately, dilapidated at this point, but old brick buildings with some arch windows there. The old school elevated train line. There's been an elevated train since like the 1870s, I think. It's crazy. Like not only for your, streetcar or trolley, tram trains in the city, but even the steam locomotives would use the elevated lines through the city. It was crazy. This next one is what it's called, Hootenanny at Carnegie Hall, but it's a blues and folk music concert at Carnegie Hall. So it's got Pete Seeger and Tony Kraber, but it's also got Reverend Gary Davis, who was a gospel and blues 12-string guitar player. But the inside of Carnegie Hall up in New York there, it's just incredible. Look how many tiers and balconies there are in this place. And it's all super fancy. It's not just, your standard run-of-the-mill. Each tier or level's got different decorations on that sort of the front of the, I don't know, boxes or whatever those are called. The front of the stages or levels. Super fancy. See a lot of this. For some reason, they like to show these. I don't know. They like to get behind old dilapidated buildings in some back alley somewhere in like Chicago or Detroit, and take these kinds of photos for blues albums. This is the story of the blues, I guess, because like Chicago blues in the 60s and 70s could sort of be equated with sort of the ghetto of certain cities for whatever reason, right? It's always I don't know. The bluesy parts of towns are always the ghetto for some reason. That's crazy! Take it easy. Take it easy there, young man. It's fine. But this isn't even just specifically Chicago blues. This is just, it's sort of, well, as it says, a history of blues on record. From the 30s right up to, I think, the 60s on this. But again, old world brick buildings. Unfortunately, they let these old neighborhoods go on purpose, right? So they have an excuse to condemn them and tear down remnants of the old world. Got to hear some Allman Brothers. Allman Brothers Band. These big giant pillars. These guys are, they're underneath some huge pediment. Held up by these giant pillars. I don't know, somewhere in, looks like probably some plantation in the South, undoubtedly. I think the Allmans are from Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. Big, beautiful pillars or columns there. That crinkling you're hearing, by the way, is I'm one of those crazy people that keeps all my records in these outer sleeves to protect them. Even if it's a used record that the previous owner beat the hell out of, and I managed to get it for a good price. Can't talk about Allman Brothers without the Allman Brothers Band live at the Fillmore East. It's kind of hard to see, but because they got all their amps and all their equipment stacked in front, but red brick building there. I think there's another shot in the back there. So yeah, it's always a lot of old world. You notice it, but you don't notice it, right? Was it Mr. Plinkett says? Maybe you didn't notice it, but your brain did. You subliminally notice these things. And to me, it makes the album cover more interesting. And again, because of the size of these vinyl records, you can get a really nice photograph or a piece of artwork because you got a larger space to work with than a cassette or a CD or a thumbnail for a digital file or whatever. There's some predictive programming, maybe Dr. John City Lights. That's New York there. Oh, there's a couple of buildings that look like they're ablaze and being destroyed, but also just in general, the melted buildings. Of course, here candles, obviously, but Melted Buildings by Dr. John. That City Lights album. I like Dr. John. Cool, froggy kind of a voice, great piano player. Well, my main man, Mr. Buddy Guy, my favorite blues guitarist. Lives in Chicago now, but he's originally from Lettsworth, Louisiana. There's a great shot of one of his more recent albums, not his newest, but a more recent album. But just in a back alley in Chicago, red brick buildings. Beautiful. And he's got arched windows and an arched door here on this one. Buddy Guy looking good. That guy can play, man. That guy can play. There he said the blues, all the blues. Yeah, it's going to be pretty much. I mean, I did pull out a few rock albums too, but yeah, I'd prefer listening to records. And the thing about the physical format is they can't change it, right? Like, look how, like, if you have, I don't have any of this stuff, but a lot of people that have Disney Plus are bitching that newly edited versions of classic Disney animated shows, they're changing stuff, or you like the movie Splash. They went in after the fact and CGI'd some long hair in the back of Daryl Hannah to cover her bare tushy as she's coming out of the ocean, because there's like a half a second shot of her bare bum as she transforms from a mermaid into a human and comes out of the water. Oh my goodness, you could see her bare bottom for 0.7 seconds, right? But when you have the physical media in your hand, they can't change it. You got it. They can't go back in like George Lucas and screw up Star Wars and Empire and Jedi. You know what I'm saying? Oh, they're from Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate that. Thank you. Jacksonville, Florida. Neuromass says, saw Buddy Guy in Montreal in 2002. Yeah, that'd be a good show in Montreal. Was it during the Montreal Jazz Fest? Even though Buddy Guy's Chicago blues, he's not jazz, but they'll often have blues artists perform during the Jazz Fest. I've seen Buddy Guy 5 times here in Calgary. That's right, 5 times. I done met him 3 times. He's a sweet man. He's a sweetheart. And he's funny as hell, too. John Hammond, actually John Hammond Jr. or John Hammond II. Big City Blues, you get New York there in the background. Beauties. Even way back here, this little guy, just beautiful. It's a nice shot because not as many modern skyscrapers in the skyline here at this point, right? John Hammond's a great bluesman, acoustic and some electric, but great harmonica player, excellent guitarist. Yeah, Disney is getting weird. They've been getting weird for a while. We got here, oh yeah, I got some John Lee Hooker. This is John Lee Hooker live at Soledad Prison, not so much for the front of the cover, but this prison. Look at the size of this old brick prison. Now, this was recorded in, what's the bloody year on this thing? Come on now. 1972. And already this prison looks like it's 100 years old. And look how huge that is. A lot of fancy brickwork and everything here on these sort of front, the facades on it. But there's like, these are wings that jut out, but they're connected here. And then there's 3 more that jut out here, like these 3. And then another tower in the, like, massive. It's a big ass prison. Oh, my favorite bluesman of overall, like my overall favorite bluesman, the Howlin' Wolf, the Wolf. This is a compilation of his singles that were released in the late 50s, early 60s. Big City Blues. Again, you get, red brick building there. Let's see here. Try to make it look like it's a foundation, but it's a fake foundation. You can see some of the brick patterns starting to peek through, and as it's busting away, you can see brick underneath here. So even on the album covers, the bricks are shooting right down into the ground here. The Wolf, my favorite. Mudflood Prison Blues. Yeah. Gonna tell you the news, I got them. Mudflood Prison Blues. Elmore James. Love me some Elmore James. This is actually a kind of a twofer album. Got some Elmore James tracks on here, and then we got some Jimmy Reed and Eddie Taylor on here as well. Don't they always do that, right? You get this beautiful old red brick building, and then they cover it up with all kinds of crappy signage, or they paint some sign like, Joe's Sandwich Shop. Look at a nice B.B. King here. This is B.B. King in London. Pretty fancy doorway with a couple of bobbies there in the front. Got sort of a pinwheel effect in that transom window above the door. It's quite nice. You gotta go up a step and a half to get into that place, though, for some reason. It's weird. Again, see? This is made to look like great big stones or maybe like cinder blocks, but no, it busts away and it's just red brick underneath. Red brick underneath this. It's fake. This is all fake. They just cover it in schmutz and then they stamp a stencil into it to make it look like big stones, but no, it's brick. Brick. Got me kind of a rare T-Bone Walker here. T-Bone Walker was a great Texas bluesman. He was a student of Blind Lemon Jefferson, so that's going way back to the 1930s. Cut his first records in his late teens, and he was a huge influence on the aforementioned B.B. King, as well as the aforementioned Buddy Guy. But this is a promo copy of T-Bone Walker's blues band live in Montreux. And it's from 1972. So T-Bone's already well on in years at this point. He's already well into his 60s. But great voice, great guitar player. He was one of the earliest to play electric guitar. But he's also a great piano/keyboard player too. So yeah, there he is there on his bus there in the front. It's live in Montreux, T-Bone Walker. But it's this building in the back. This is the joint he was playing in. This is the venue that he was playing in. There's the inside of it there, right? There's T-Bone, Aaron Thibodeau Walker, T-Bone Walker. But this is a place that he played at. Look at this place. I mean, Montreux is a trip, man. Like the buildings in Montreux. Unbelievable. Even that old casino before it burnt down, it was just incredible. Montreux is just on another level when it comes to these old world Tartarian looking buildings. Oh, Jazz Fest at the Metropolis. Okay, I'm not familiar with the Metropolis. Is that near down and around like St. Catherine and Saint Denis, kind of that area, or? So yeah, there's some. There's just a little taste of some of the blues albums there in my collection. Again, I just pulled out a bunch of random stuff. I mean, probably for every one I pulled out, went, oh, that's interesting. there's probably 5 to 10 that I just kind of whipped by, right? Because it just gets to be like kind of a lot of the same, right? Standing in front of some old world building or whatever. But I got some other records here because, I got to get some Canadian content. Got some Canadian bands here too, you see. So first, wait a second, how did that get in there? Take off, eh? How'd that get in there? That doesn't have any old world. Take off, you hosers. Jeez, it's coming in here and disrupting the show, eh? The guy's trying to do his thing there, buddy. All right. Of course, Rush. I mean, you're talking Canada, you got to talk some Rush, moving pictures. But, I mean, come on, man. Look at this place. Right? With whatever this and this is supposed to be and this big, I mean, and then you got to go up a bunch to get into, come on, man. Come on, man. Rush. The Holy Triumphant. Rest in peace, Neil Peart. Oh, one of my favorite Canadian rock bands. Streetheart. That's right, Streetheart. Great 70s and 80s Canadian rock band. Just good old friendly straight up rock and roll. Look at that, Brick Road. And that's the album cover there, right? Kind of a rainy night street scene with a heart in the street. Why not? Because it's their debut album, eh? But it's a Brick Road, and not just in the heart. I mean, all in the background you can see in the light where the rain is reflecting the light. It's all brick. Brick Road. I don't know where this is. I'm assuming maybe somewhere in Toronto. I think Streetheart are from in and around Toronto. Yeah, them hosers are cool, eh? Oh, they sure are, eh? And they know how to dress nice too, eh? With the toque, the parka, and the plaid shirt. It's pretty much how I dress walking to work, especially today with all the snow. Let's see. Now they tell us on St. Catherine near. Oh, okay. It's the TELUS Convention Center now. Yeah. You played the Calgary TELUS Convention Center here once. I saw him. Shemakia Copeland opened for him. Shemakia Copeland and Buddy Guy on the same bill. How do you like them apples? Can't talk about Canadian music, a little Canadiana without some Neil Young. Got to have the Neil Young. After the gold rush, big giant brick wall that he's walking in front of there. And for some reason, it looks like it's shooting down because they got some metal grills, drainage grills there in the sidewalk or something. I don't know. Having some problems with drainage here with this brick building, I guess. Neil Young. I like Neil Young. He's not the best singer, but there's just once in a while you get an artist that just pops up that you're like, you know what, they don't have the best voice, but it's still cool. Like a lot of people are like that with Bob Dylan, right? Bob Dylan's got a terrible voice, but they're like, I dig Bob Dylan. Now, for me personally, not so much. Neil Young, I can dig, even though he's not the best singer. When he hits the high stuff, he's better. And, in his younger days, he was better. But anyway, I tend to lean more towards Neil Young than Bob Dylan when it comes to crappy singers that I still enjoy. We had to look at some Canadian. You know what? I'm going to throw it out there too, by the way. If you could think of any albums off the top of your head, you're like, oh, wait, I know about an album that's got a, this and that, a blimp on it, or I don't know, some old world, whatever. Some guy on a penny farthing bicycle or something. Just shout it out in the box. And if I've got it, I'll pull it out of my collection and show it if I've got it. Stuff like everybody knows about this Led Zeppelin, physical graffiti in this famous building, right? That's in I think Brooklyn. I believe Brooklyn. I could be wrong. Correct me if you know for sure. It's a famous building. The famous Zeppelin album, of course, there, eh? Come on. The best hard rock band of all time, Led Zeppelin. The Hammer of the Gods, Led Zeppelin. The Mighty Zepp. Everybody's seen that. At least they can sing a little. All the rappers nowadays can't sing a lick. Well, yeah, but I guess if you're rapping, you're not really singing, right? You're doing the hip hop, a hippie to the hippie, the hip a hoppy. You don't stop, but rock it to the bang bang boogie. Say up, jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie the beat. Now what you hear is not a test. I'm rapping to the beat. And me, a groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. You know, they're not trying to do the Neil Young. Well, yeah, Bob Dylan talks about that. It's something about the chief. You got to answer to the chief. You sell your soul to the chief and all that. That he's just copying old Robert Johnson stories, and even the Robert Johnson story is originally a musician selling their soul to the devil to become a great musician is actually attributed to Robert Johnson, but it was actually a blues guitarist of an earlier generation than Robert Johnson called Tommy Johnson that first told that story, that he sold his soul to the devil to be able to play blues guitar and sing. And he was known as an excellent, inventive guitar player. And he had a beautiful blues sort of crying falsetto to his voice. And he did a lot of his recordings in the 20s, and he influenced guys like later on Robert Johnson, no relation, by the way. He was known as inventing the walking bass line, where he would play the bass notes on the bass strings of his 6-string acoustic guitar while playing the melody with the other strings, kind of simultaneously syncopated. You know what I'm saying? He was one of the earliest to do that on record, on recordings, on these old shellac platters, right? And he went on to influence tons of other bluesmen in his wake of later generations, Robert Johnson, Howlin' Wolf, all kinds of cats. But his story wasn't going to the crossroads to meet up with the devil, to sell your soul. It was going to a graveyard at midnight, and you would sit down and play your guitar if you were a guitar player, and then the devil would come out and take your guitar and tune it and play a tune for you and hand it back to you. And then when you took it back from him, you could play like the greatest ever. And there's a few so-called missing years in the history of Robert Johnson, the next generation from the 1930s, where he can't be accounted for, which for some reason became a big deal. I don't know why. There's tons of these blues artists and jazz artists that would disappear for 5 years or so and come back and start recording again. But apparently some missing time. Well, Robert went away for a while and he couldn't play the guitar worth a lick. And then he came back and he's the best guitar player ever. BS. He went up to the Mississippi Hill Country and he learned that a little bit of their style there. And then he moved in with his stepsister in Memphis. And he hung around in Memphis, Tennessee in the mid-1930s. His sister wrote a book about it. It's called Brother Robert. I bought the book and I read it. He just didn't hobo around. He stayed put for a little while and worked on his craft and improved his guitar playing, wrote some songs, traded some techniques with other musicians that would hang around there in what was known as Congo Square at the time. It's now called W.C. Handy Park, I believe, in Memphis. Anyway, blues historians and writers and researchers couldn't account for a little bit of time that there was no account of Robert. He wasn't recording. He wasn't working on such and such a farm. He wasn't hoboing around with this guy or that guy, Johnny Shines and, Honey Boy Edwards didn't know where he was, and yada yada yada. So they were like, "Oh, he went away and sold his soul to the devil and came back and he could play." Nah, that was just a couple of blues writers by the name of Bill Evans and I can't remember the other guy's name. That when they were researching Robert, couldn't account for his missing time. So they took the Tommy Johnson story and transplanted it to the Robert Johnson story. And then they said, oh, yeah, and then he wrote that song Crossroads, all about it. Even though in the Crossroads, Robert Johnson doesn't even talk about the devil or his soul or a contract or nothing like that. So it's a weird twisting of the narrative. Oh, isn't that a surprise? Anyway, back to old world records, old world stuff on record covers. Even David Bowie got into the act here with this. I mean, look at this fantastic building he's posing in front of with the big, huge door, the transom window on top, and then the coining with the brickwork here, this coining detail with the brick. It's nice. The background here, too, old world building. This is somewhere in London, I'm assuming. It says something London here, so. But yeah, even the Thin White Duke or whatever the heck his nickname was, even he got into it. Even then, they're Eagles, at the Hotel California, right? That's a beautiful building. Of course, they say, I think, so we're told that was built in the 30s, but I mean, it's definitely inspired by Old World, if it isn't remnants of Old World that have been sort of renovated and built, expanded upon and fixed up maybe, I don't know, in the 30s. But yeah, the Eagles getting into it with Hotel California. With all them domes and cupolas and weird tech on top, arched doorways and stuff. Hey, Phil. Phil Henry in the box. Good to see you. Hello, hello. Oh, yeah, Led Zeppelin's album covers. Well, I mean, here, let me just, where are we here? Right? I mean, yeah, old airship, right? I loved Led Zeppelin. Robert Plant, one of the greatest singers of all time. Jimmy Page, one of the greatest guitarists of all time. I mean, come on, man. You got John Paul Jones, bassist, arranger, keyboard player extraordinaire, one of the greats, still touring around, still playing. John Bonham, God rest his soul. Bonzo was like the best drummer ever. Just incredible, But yeah, I don't know. Shout out some records. I don't know. There's Blondie. There's Blondie with some old world skyscrapers there in the background. Again, New York, right? But I mean, you could have had that photo taken anywhere. But no, let's do it on the rooftop and let's make sure we get, the Empire State Building and some of these other old world buildings in the background, right? Yeah, that's right. I have Blondie records. So what? Unfortunately, I don't have any Kanye. I do not have any Kanye West. My brother's got some Kanye West in his record collection. My brother's got a few vinyl records too. Not nearly as many as I do. And more in the R&B / hip hop vein, although not exclusively. But a video of Jimmy Page and Neil Young jamming? Wow, that'd be pretty good. That'd be really good. Pink Floyd Animals. Excuse me. That one I don't have. I have The Wall. I have Dark Side of the Moon. I have Hello, I Must Be Going. but I do not have animal. Sorry. If I did, I would definitely... Which one is that one? Animal. Is that the one with the big factory, the weird factory on the cover? Is that one? Just going to cajoogle it on the interwebs machine here. Pink Floyd. Animal. Oh, yeah, with that factory. Yeah, kind of, it almost looks like a little bit of a, there's an Alan Parsons Project album that looks a bit like that too. It's got some crazy factory on the front. But then in the old world buildings there too, right? Let me just share what we're talking about instead of just talking about it. You know, in case people are like, what are you talking about there, Frankie? Yeah, this. But these buildings especially are really nice. Yeah, it's got the flying pig, right? Yeah, the flying pig. Live in Pompeii. Is that Pink Floyd? I don't have that either. I don't have a lot of Pink Floyd. I'm more of a classic rock kind of a guy, blues, classic rock. You know, Zeppelin, I don't know, Meatloaf. I'm old, right? So it's a lot of old stuff too. But I was never really into like psych and all that too much. And what do they call it? That other genre there that, you know, Pink Floyd is progressive rock. A little maybe, but not. I'm not much of a big prog rock guy. More of a blues rock, classic rock kind of a guy. You know what I'm saying? It's the old Battersea Power Station in that Pink Floyd album. Ah, okay. Thank you. Very interesting. Very interesting. Flip it through here. I got a lot of Moody Blues, but that's more artwork on the cover instead of photos of stuff. Right? Got a schwack of like Deep Purple. That's the kind of, like, you know, Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Sabbath. But I also like Stevie Wonder and, you know, Blondie and, I don't know, Doug and the Slugs and Men Without Hats and Men at Work and I don't know. The 90s stuff too, right? I've got some 90s stuff. Like Tragically Hip, the Black Crowes. I dig the Black Crowes. They're from Savannah, Georgia. There we go. There's Rouse. The Black Crowes. In fact, I got an album, Black Crowes, with Jimmy Page. Live at the Greek. That's a killer. That's just a killer album. So that's a great one. Fantastic. They do Zeppelin tunes. There's Black Crowes with Jimmy. It's a 3-record set. There's a great shot. Yeah, they're a great band. In my opinion, Black Crowes, one of the greatest bands come out of the 90s. Yeah, Safety Dance. We could dance if we want to. We leave your friend behind. Basically, I think they're from Montreal, Quebec. It's just a huge one-hit wonder. Poor bastards. Terry Light says, here's my weird story. The loudest show I've ever been to was Neil Diamond. Ear bleeding loud. Really? Neil Diamond? Huh. No offense, but I do not have any Neil Diamond in my collection. Not a Neil Diamond guy. But I mean, hey, each to his own, right? That means if you go to a record store, there'll be more Neil Diamond records free to find because Frankie ain't buying them up on you. Now, if you're looking for BB King and I got there before you, you're in some trouble because it's all going to be gone. I'm going to buy it all up. But then Neil Diamond, I'll leave for the next fella. You know what I'm saying? I've seen some loud shows. I got to tell you, Motley Crue, I saw in, when was that? About 2012, 2015, something like that. And that was maybe a bit before that, but that was bloody loud. That was really loud. Saw Big Sugar, which, the theme song to my channel here is Big Sugar. And that was very loud, ringing in the ears afterwards. But the loudest show that I had ever been to was Sloan, another Canadian band. And that was so loud. I saw them at the McEwen Hall Ballroom at the University of Calgary. And is it the university or Mount Royal University? Either way, the Mac Hall Ballroom at the university. I think that's U of C. Excuse me. And that was so loud, like ear-splittingly, ear-bleeding loud. And the next day, you still have the tinnitus, mop. You got the soft tissue damage in the inner ear. The next day, I still had ringing. So loud, like unnecessarily loud, but it was damn good. Sloan put on a hell of a good show. Oh, Phil says you played trumpet in school and band, eh? Okay, nice. Influence. I like trumpet. When it comes to jazz, I love trumpet, actually. I like Miles' early stuff, his bebop and hard bop stuff. But I like cats like Hot Lips Page. I love Louis Armstrong, old Satchmo. With the trumpet going. I dig that. Like, what's his name? Ben Webster? No, he plays saxophone, I believe. Yeah, I dig a jazz trumpet. Or a horn section in blues or southern rock, like you get them horn section in there. Sounds good. Jabiru Joe says, first concert I went to was Grateful Dead and Jefferson Airplane. Wow, yeah, that's a big one. A couple of big bands for sure. Kathy says her first concert was Kiss. That would be loud. That'd be a good show too. I like Kiss. Had a couple of Kiss albums. Dressed to Kill. What else do I have? The one I can't remember the name of it. Rock and Roll something, and it's like a cartoon of them, and it's a circle on the album cover, and each one of their faces on it. So where are we at here? Well, we are just past the 2-hour mark. So I think I'm getting ready to wind this thing down here for tonight. But I'm interested to know what you think in the chat, in the box, or in the comments below after the fact, what you thought of this sort of thing here. It's something a little different than what we normally cover. We normally sort of take a look at official historical narrative and see if we can poke a few holes in it. Ultimately, there's already holes poked in it. We just got to find them. But this was just something that I'm sort of kicking around the idea of, and I thought, it would be interesting. I know I've mentioned this record before of the globe, the Mr. World. But I thought it'd be interesting to share it with you. So as mentioned, coming up for the channel, got a couple of road trips. I'm going to try and do a 1,500 subscriber meetup in Inglewood, hopefully mid-June. Later on in the summer, going to head up to Edmonton, to the capital city there in the province of Purdy, Alberta, going up there to old Edmund Chuck. check out the legislature grounds of the Capitol building there, as well as my old stomping grounds from when I lived up there for a couple of years. Pretty sure Cousin Vinny and I are going to try to head back to Heritage Park this summer as well. Try to get that train museum and car museum in there, and try to catch the blacksmith while he's still banging away and working on whatever he's working on. So keep your peepers peeled for all of that, as well as apparently Freemason's going to give me a tour of some of the buildings they built here in the 1910s and 20s, supposedly. So that'll be fun to get the narrative right out of that horse's mouth. So keep your ocular sphericals locked onto the channel for that. That should be fun. Bill says, oh, but wasn't a pain to take your speaker. Yeah, I just yanked it out of the stereo. It's fine. No, this was an old speaker from an old stereo system. One of those cabinet systems, you know, with the built-in turntable and stereo, and it's made to look like a piece of furniture. You know, the back in the day stuff made out of wood that looked nice. And it was an old blown speaker that I yanked out, and for some reason I was hanging on to it. I don't know why, because it doesn't work. So I thought, well, perfect. Throw it up here with the record, some headphones, a harmonica, and some tube amps, or some tubes from the old tube amp, from the old radio. My smoke keeps going out because I'm jaw jacking too much instead of just doing a nice sign off. Anyway, with that said, links for everything in the description below, as per usual. Email and MeWe, as well as Rumble and BitChute. Oh, schwack. The folks following over on the Rumble and on the BitChute, so thank you very much. Over 50 of yous over on both of those channels, or each of those channels, so that's great. Thank you very much. Occasionally I will upload stuff that's a little different, or stuff that doesn't make it through the HooTube's algorithm, you know, and they got to make me take it off or whatever. You know, it'll always be up on the Rumble. So I think that is going to seal the deal here tonight for Frankie, New West Reset, and New West Reset Live, episode 60, The Old World in My Record Collection. Next week for the show, for the live show on Friday, we'll be looking at some photos that George sent me. George is great. He sends me at least 1 or 2 emails a week, a folder of great photos. So we're going to be looking at some old world trains, trestle bridges, stone bridges, some train stations, whether it's, you know, steam locomotive trains, or whether it's underground subway or streetcar trolley type electric trains and their stations, and some tunnels, and just some really interesting stuff. So we're going to have a look at that, because he sent me some great photos. So we're going to look at that next Friday. And of course, you get your sneak peek at your midweek vintage footage. 1915 San Francisco World's Fair, some rare stuff on that. Sunday coming up, boots on the ground. I accidentally mixed up the thing. I thought that last Sunday you were going to get the mudflood tour of the Mount Royal Mansions. No, that's coming up this Sunday, day after tomorrow. Sunday the 7th, you're getting the Mount Royal Mansion mudflood walkabout. So until then, thank you very much. Don't forget to do one of these and all the other things. Thank you once again. Appreciate it as always. And until the next one, take care of yourselves out there and have a good one. All right, everybody? Thanks again. Cheers.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma.